Hey guys, and welcome back to Building Habits. In case you're new here, this is a series where I introduce a set of rules you should try and follow in every game you play. The goal is to teach you strong fundamental principles that we will improve upon as we go. This series is my personal take on how to improve in chess, starting from 400 ELO all the way up to 2000 ELO and beyond. I'm going to choose a series of rules that I have to follow. What you might notice is that you will miss chances to play winning moves. That's okay. The goal here is to focus on the fundamentals, and I'm trying to get you guys to build good habits and play high percentage moves that will help you increase your rating. Let's get started. Remember, 5-minute chess is what we're playing. We're at 1800 right now. Rook endgames for 2000. Well, actually, GTS, we have rook endgames even here for this level. I'm pretty sure our buddy James is a tier 3 sub from the chat. I think this is a tier 3 sub. Is that the Eric face there? I think that's the Hansen face. That's right. If you're tier 3, you have a better chance of sniping me. Tier 3 has a better chance of sniping me. But it doesn't mean that you won't fall into some Caro-Kann opening issues. Thank you, Esmachacos. Just trying my best out here. Tier 3 on auto renewal. Even better. They never pushed to d4. Well, I would be happy if people played pawn to d4 against me in this Caro-Kann line. It never happens, but obviously I'd be thrilled if it did, because most of the time in that line you just end up winning a pawn. So we're threatening checkmate, and again we want to hover that bishop around the c4 square. Just waiting for his g6 move. You don't want to pre-move it, because I've seen crazier moves, like people blundering mate in one and playing moves like bishop g6 here, which isn't a good move, but they might think it's the only move. So we'll get this move out there. Not quite as a pre-move, but just about. However, at 1800, it's not like I'm expecting bishop f7 to work here. So definitely expecting this, but you see the the edge on the clock, for example, that I'm able to get already. And none of these moves, they might look impressive, or I don't know, they might look too advanced, but I promise you guys, I've explained these moves in depth and broke them down. I don't think they're too advanced for anyone in the chat. As we've been progressing up the habits ladder, these are just part of the Caro-Kann theory we've looked at together. Let's bring that queen back. Now it really is hanging. Black is reactive, yes. And after knight f7, the game is over. I mean, the 11 moves here. We have KOs like this all the time. Like I told you, being a tier 3 sub, it may help you get paired against me, but it's not going to help you win. And he has to go here. If you play king takes knight, then I would play queen takes pawn check. Only move king there, followed by queen f7 mate. So it's a tier 3 KO right there. He's going to keep playing, of course, queen e7. I've got 2 extra minutes on the clock. I'm about to snap that rook in the corner. Do I have anything better than that? Always do a double check. Look-see. I don't think so. I don't need to take it right away. I could go like bishop takes e6, but hey, let's keep things simple. Let's grab a rook if it's there. Okay, and bishop g7. Now what should I do? Well, this guy's hanging on e6, so now that I've won a rook, something like queen takes e6 and just trading pieces makes a lot of sense. Bishop takes e6, also playable. And then the other move to consider would be something like knight takes g6. So I think the two best moves would be knight g6 and queen takes e6, keeping it nice and simple. Knight g6 makes sure to get an extra pawn on my way out. And queen takes e6, takes, something like that. I lose my knight in the corner, and then I have to continue development. So, knight takes g6, a way to get an extra pawn. I'm going to chalk that up to a little bit greedy and say, look, let's keep things nice and simple. Get a queen trade in there. There are some times where, you know, that extra pawn might be valuable, but why is it valuable here? I've got 2 pawns, plus I've got, you know, rook for a minor piece here. No need to be fancy. I've already got enough material to be winning the game. So, no need to have more. No need to have more than enough. Let's castle. Okay, and we want to make sure to, well, could play like c3, d4. I think c3, d4, or just d3 makes sense here. I'm just going to choose d3. Just trying to get this bishop out. Our rook wants to go to the open file. And now that he's given up that pawn, I'll take it with tempo. Rook to an open file makes a lot of sense. And again, pretty much any trade I would be interested in at this point. So I'm not really going to be too picky. I am interested in finishing development and all that. But this king looks like something to be concerned about. Look at this bishop, by the way. Locked in with that pawn. It's tough to watch. It's tough to watch that. Alright, he goes knight there. I'm just going to bring my rook to the middle. Try to keep it nice and simple. If he wants to take, I will happily take that. See what he wants to do. Okay, not really going to think twice. That is a piece exchange. Going to take that. At this point, I think using the rooks be very important. Get the rooks down there. Can also use this bishop to attack this rook, for example, or give a check. Got a lot of good options, but the bishop on the side of the board is not fantastic. People asking, why no bishop f4? Well, it's not just so obvious, right? I'm not going to let's play this move, attack a pawn. I'm not just going to play whatever might be the best move in the position. We are still following some habits here, and I'm trying to choose what I would consider to be some of the more logical or straightforward moves. Bishop f4 to me, hitting a central square, getting the bishop's on the side of the board on h6. He was there to pick up a pawn, and he goes rook f8. What do I have to do here? I gotta go rook e7. The h file has some gravity right now. The h file has some bishops right now. Bishop takes b2 is a fake oh no. Definitely a fake oh no. And I love the way he's playing right here. Bishop f6. As you can see. Am I choosing the best moves here? Probably not. To me, they seem very logical. Rook f8 is a fantastic move. I have bishop f6. Rook c7. Is it playable? Yeah, it's playable. But what's going to happen after rook c7? He's probably going to play bishop to d8. However, I still think very reasonable to play this. Hey, he keeps watching the bishop. Very logical. Very logical move. Once you hoop yourself into a like, oh, I gotta defend my bishop, you're probably gonna continue with a move like this. Makes sense. Logical because, hey, once you make a mistake, you gotta keep rolling with your mistake. Right? We wanna go rook e7 to defend our bishop, and rook c7 is the only way to keep doing that. So, nicely done here. We'll take, he takes. I still think we're doing well. There's a hanging pawn there, which I'm going to take the time to defend right now. And an open files. Looking juicy here. Let's see how he wants to do. Thanks for the 5 months there at the Chosen One, and Victor Andrew with the 100 bits. Okay, goes bishop f5. Again, at this point, moves like this and this. Center of the board, activating the pieces makes some sense. Trying to hit this pawn here. Hey, is it time for some random pawn moves? Let's go. Knight 6, attacking my rook on d8. I'll just make a move to hit the knight. Rook f6. Maybe time for a few random moves. And oh, he's trapped my rook. Oh, buddy. Oh, buddy. Let's get some pre-moves in. Let's see if we can put all these pawns on dark squares. If I stay only on dark squares, do I have a chance? Nicely played. GG to James. Let's have a look. There are some people who I don't think they knew about what opening I was playing here. I don't know if they knew what opening I was playing. I'm surprised because if you're sort of on tier 3, not tier 3. Yeah, if you're on tier 3, that counts as well. If you're on level 3, rather, or level 4 of habits, you should know exactly what I'm playing here. This shouldn't be a surprise. The amount of games that we get in this opening, so many. Like, they've all been on stream. You guys have probably noticed them. Queen h5. Look, Queen h5. I'm making mistakes out here. I'm blundering. But these are good blunders. These are good blunders. Why? Because the likelihood that knight takes f7 works here, probably 90, 95%. 90, 95. Why does it suggest never resigning? Well, if my opponent resigned after knight f7, he wouldn't have won this game. How about that? There's a good reason. Reason number one. But, you know, when you're out of the gate with what is this, +6 or something advantage, that's something you'll take every time. So I have had a lot of success with this opening. Definitely want to recommend. James pretty much walked right into it. So James, if you're watching, buddy, James UK, you got to make sure this does not occur again. There's no place for bishop f5, bishop g6. No, this whole line is not good. This whole line is not good. Okay, even if they play e6, we're still gonna play c3. Doesn't stop us from playing c3. So that was a successful opening, but not exactly a dub. But as we know in this series, things can start off a little slow. All right, take. And we said, remember, whenever something like this happens, there is e5 available, but those closed positions are sort of what we're trying to avoid right now. So knight c3 or taking. Taking is always going to open things up. Knight c3 keeps the tension. Those are the moves that we want to be playing right now. Those are the ones I recommend. Keep the position open as you're improving with the Habits series. Okay, he's also keeping the tension, but that's fine with me. His knight is blocking his bishop. I don't want to take and help his knight develop. That's not the case at all. A fresh prime, that's right. Insane's welcome. Welcome. And he goes knight here, so he really wants to take that bishop. I don't think there's anything wrong with castling here and say, look, if you want to take it, go ahead. However, normally, when your bishop gets attacked like this, if they're telegraphing, they want that bishop so badly, move like bishop b1 is often what you're interested in. Just protect the bishop, and remember, you can kick his knight out with a3 next turn anyway. You're going to get castle to safety. You know, the knight's not really bothering you. Okay, anytime that they take in the center, we're pretty much always planning to take with the knight. Okay, it goes knight to f5. I mean, I guess he's targeting this, but it's not a threat at the moment. Castling priority. Oh, definitely party commands. But for this habit series, I've been like permanently recommending that people play open positions. I think that they're a lot easier to understand. Bishop e1 is pretty big brain. Well, it's all about just not letting him take your bishop for no reason, right? Which is a concept we've talked about. If he's going to play 2 knight moves, try to get your bishop, and you can play a move to prevent that altogether, usually you're going to be pretty interested in that. Usually going to be pretty interested in that. Take that free knight. First of all, I don't think it's free. And second of all, I don't think it can be taken. So, geez, hold your horses. Attack the horsey. Not a bad idea at all. Let's do it. A3. Get this guy out of here. Okay. Knight's attacking the central pawn. Can I go d5 safely? No. I actually only have one move, and it's bishop here. So, whether I like it or not, it's the only move to save this pawn. Got to defend. Now, if he takes, I'm taking back. Not the worst thing in the world, right? I get a pawn in the center. I'm capturing towards the middle. I'm also supporting my isolated pawn. Can't really complain about that. Can't really complain about that. Goes queen b6. He's not really hitting the pawn again. So there's not any extra pressure added. He still does have the same idea. Knight takes bishop in the future. He's hitting my pawn on b2. If I want to defend that pawn, keep playing the game. Something like queen d2. Makes sense. d5, remember, he's going to take this bishop. He's going to take this bishop on e3. So d5 is not the vibe. Even now, right? d5, he's going to take on e3. So that's not going to help me much. That's not going to help me much. I'm trying to just focus on development at the moment. For example, these 2 rooks, where do I want to put them? I probably need one of them to support this this pawn on d4. Let's go rook d1. So I see all you guys, you're clamoring. You want d5, but after knight takes e3, not so good after all. Not so good after all. Okay, we gotta get this rook into the game from a1, basically. So let's move this bishop back into the middle. Bishop a2, totally reasonable move. I am going to keep my bishop in the center of the board, but fully understand what you're intending there. Let's get the rook out. Now this guy can be taken, but very, very risky to do that with so many different threats lined up here. So I've got my rooks in the middle. He brings the rook over, and at this point, I kind of need something to do here. This pawn being under attack. Is it crazy to play bishop b1? I don't think so. Bishop b1 actually makes a lot of sense to me because it makes sure to guard this pawn with everything, and the bishop exerts just as much pressure here as it does when it was on d3. So actually, this rook on c1 being on a1 was the only reason I moved the bishop. Absolutely. So don't think this is crazy. b4, knight c5. Ideas like that. Someone mentioned b4 in the chat. Not a bad move at all. I like knight c5 as well. I also like h3. But that probably doesn't surprise you. That probably doesn't surprise you. Bishop b1, once your rook is already in the game, is often a very nice feeling. Bishop in the center of the board can block your pieces sometimes from defending important pawns. Can take away some squares. Bishop b1 does the same thing on that diagonal, except from further away. All right, I told you guys I liked h3. I'm not going to second guess that one. Let's make sure to get that move in. We talked about b4 as an idea. Knight c5, also another idea. Yeah, metal chess. Bishop f1 is a decent move as well, but would I rather my bishop on this diagonal or this diagonal? I think there's a lot more going on towards the king. think there's a lot more going on towards the king. So have to see what his next move is. So he decides to take, and I think the entire game I've been waiting for the capture in order to play pawn takes. Queen takes makes a ton of sense to me as well. I think both moves are good. I'm gonna probably play pawn takes just to try out this structure, but I think queen takes is very good too. Okay, hey, you guys familiar with this one? The old, I'm threatening nothing. Don't mind me. Hello, Drew Scribbly, knight c5. Remember, if he takes, we'll be very, very interested in taking back, doubling up on an open file. Hey, remember that? Also some dark squares to put my pieces in. e4, expanding in the center. Looking to play pawn takes, for example. Continuing, if this pawn ever moves, you guys know I'm coming down with queen h7. And let's get a few trades in. Pass pawns must be pushed. Pass pawns must be pushed. Right? That d pawn, all of a sudden it just ran the board. It just ran the board. And at least we'll be able to get queen takes d7 in as a pre-move. That f pawn going to be loose as well. And look at this hero knight. Oh, wow. What a move. Let's take here. Take here. And again, we'll see if we can get those pre-moves in. Okay, let's pre-move that. At least it's a move. Let's pre-move that. Let's pre-move that. Okay. Let's see if we can at least pre-move this pawn. It is a pass pawn. And 1, 2, 3. We're trying. Damn. Very close game. You're interested in which habits level you can start resigning? Well, I designed the series to end at level 4. And then from that point, I passed the torch to you, young Padawan. And it's up to you guys to decide when you resign. But up to level 4, no resigning. I think it's going to serve you well. I think it's going to serve you well. So this game is actually really well played by my opponent. He went for an approach against my isolated pawn, which is really cool. But I still think we want that open position. There's no way I want you guys playing positions that are closed like this. You're going to get used to that, but something to practice for later. Open positions are the way to go. That's where the tactics come from. That's what you guys need. Let's get another game in there, but really liked what my opponent did. Played against the isolated pawn. To be honest, that was not a game I'm unhappy with from either side. All right, we're playing a Canadian. Now is our chance to get back over 1800 and make a push. Here we go. Don't know what this is. This just looks like a suspicious opening. And what have we talked about? What is our opening setup going to be? It's usually like this. When we play e6 and block our bishop, it's to play bishop b7, bishop e7, castle, and go for something like this. Again, not too sure what he's going for. Going to keep our setup that we've discussed. Just a nice, solid, flowing setup. Let's go rook e8. c3. Oh, geez, he's got a... So we both fianchetted our bishops, but what you'll notice is that he's put 2 pawns on the diagonal, and I put none. So my bishop, although I have a little bit less space than him, is technically a little bit happier. Technically a little bit happier. Buck81, thanks for the gifted sub. And there you go, New York Mike. H6 for you, buddy. H6 for you. Okay, he goes B5. He's really trying to gain a bit more space. Where is our break going to be? Well, how do we develop this queen? That's the final question. Usually we play c5 and queen c7. That's what we do. Do I mind doing it again? No, let's go for it. See what happens. If he wants to take, we're fine to do that. One thing to keep in mind, guys, if you ever play c5 and your opponent gets en passant take you, never pre-move bishop takes c6. I see a lot of people do that. They go here and they're like, oh, he might take here, and they pre-move that. And then after pawn takes pawn, you end up playing bishop c6. Disaster. Okay, let's take with the knight. Why? Because we want to put the rook and the queen on the open c file now. Rook and queen on the open c file. Yep. Rook to c8. Oh, and he's just taking immediately. Well, guys, I just put 2 pieces on an open file, so I am going to take with the queen to maintain it. And what is that pawn here? It's a backwards pawn. A backwards pawn. What do we do when our opponent has a backwards pawn? We generally try to control the square in front of it, so c5, and then later on we attack it. So right now, I think we're doing a great job controlling the square in front of it. We can continue to do so. Something like knight d7, for example. Maybe putting the knight on that square. So for example, I can move my queen out of the way, put a knight on that square, and that would be considered increasing the control here. There we go. It comes with the knight to d4, and let's put our knight in here. Motorhead, you have an interview. Back later. Okay. We'll have to check back in with that guy. We'll be waiting here on the Habits stream. Got to send some good vibrations his way. Good vibrations. He has an 84. Yeah, he definitely has ways to kick this knight out. He's just identified one, right? Knight b3. It's not like I have this square permanently, but I am able to just continuously put my pieces there to control it. Eventually, we're probably both going to run out of pieces, which is good. Trades are excellent. Anytime that your opponent has a pawn weakness, trades are excellent. Trades are excellent. Knight a5. That's a move. That's a move. Jeez, that's a move. Well, okay, it's up to me now. I can take this and have these double pawns over here. I can also, you know, throw my knight in there for any particular reason. I can also bring my knight back. Right? So I feel a little spoiled right now for choice. A little spoiled for choice. What do you guys think? Knight a5? Take 3 pieces. That's always a rule to follow. Now this pawn is going to be under attack. Probably where I want my rooks right now has actually changed. I think we want to put our bishop here on this b6 square. It's going to defend all our pawns, and that is a surprising move. Why? I'm up a pawn, and I'm able to simplify here, simplify and win a pawn. So I'm really not complaining about that. Okay, I said I was going to put my bishop here, and I think we've done a good job maintaining control of the square in front of the weak pawn. What are we going to do next? We're going to double. I was about to say we're going to double the rooks on the c file, but he's up to something over here. Guys, very important. Whenever there's only bishops left, start to do this. Light squared bishop, start to put your pawns in this formation. You want the dark squares available for your pieces and your king. Okay, he's got a check for us. And what do we have? We have a queen exchange for him. See if he wants to go for it. Just an offer. Just an offer. Rook to an open file. And the good thing about this position, as I offer him another queen trade, is I think we're going to be able to start pre-moving relatively easily. For example, let's go here. Let's see if I can pre-move that. See if I can pre-move that. I think this position will be not too bad to pre-move. Only on dark squares, right? Let's go here. Let's go for an attack there. We got 9.5 seconds. Dark squares only. Dark squares only. Dark squares only. What's going on? I'm just walking this guy home? What's happening here? What's happening? I think I just gotta go for broke here. Gotta throw check in. Oh, this guy. Gotta throw check in or something. Oh, he's too good. He's too good. Queen H2. Where's the etiquette from this Canadian? Where is etiquette from this Canadian? GG. Do you see how effectively I was able to pre-move there? It's actually very surprising. Our A pawn turned into a, well, did actually turn into a queen. Right? Pretty much all I did at this point was I just marched this guy up the board. He just kind of sat there and let it happen. Made a whole bunch of queen moves, and it was like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. This guy's actually getting a queen out here. Hating these dirty flaggers. That's okay. Let me start off a little slow. Mainly the reason is in the first couple games of any given habits day, I go a little bit extra, trying to make sure to explain the rules so we're all on the same page. And then once everyone is aware, then I have to do a little bit less explaining, and you guys hopefully remember them for the rest of the show. But that's why usually first couple games are, well, flags, let's say. Sometimes we just get outplayed. But usually the first couple games we end up flagging because I think it's important we all get on the same page what the rules are, what we're going for, and it usually gets easier. Of course, in any session, the more times you do it, especially with things like habits, the more times you do it, the better success, the more success you're going to have. Let's have a little look-see here. My opponents are playing very well. I never really thought that, well, I definitely didn't think that this level of habits would go above 2,000. I also didn't think it would really go much above 1,900, so sort of in line with what I was thinking. Again, don't really like what he's doing here, giving away bishop for no reason, but it's all about color complexes. So this game is all about the dark squares, which is why I immediately rerouted my knight there. We have our h6 in. This was a pretty good game from that perspective. Oh, knight takes a5 is best. What a move from the guy. But what was the main story of this game? Mostly time. I do want to highlight these opposite bishops. As soon as this happens, you sort of want to shift all your pieces to dark squares. Pawns to light squares, pieces to dark squares. Sort of how you want to play it. Finally, the habits are paying off. Well, that depends. That depends. By the way, I don't know what this opening is. I don't know if someone made a video or something. It's a terrible opening, but I see it all the time at this level. I mean, I think you need to be a much stronger player to be playing d6 in general. Don't know what it is with e5, d6, but not what I would recommend at the 17-ish 100 level. I would be choosing openings that gain a lot more, let's put the bishop in the middle, that gain a lot more space in the center of the board. Okay, a6. I'm not going to complain about a quick castle. Okay, we now probably want to bring the rooks to the center as well. Okay, attack the bishop. Again, pretty much every time we get attacked, we go back. So we're going to do it. We're going to go back. And yes, I was hoping we were going to see this move. It's a very strong move, and it's one of the only, say, main tricks to watch out for in this opening. So it's a good one. At the very least, we should double check this one afterwards. Bishop takes f3. Probably I was a little bit more scared of c4 by him. Bishop takes f3, quote unquote, works. I don't think it's the best move. I wonder if you guys have any ideas for me here. Bishop takes f3 played. Definitely we see his idea. I can't take back, right? Because knight takes f3 wins my pieces, queen and king, forked. But c4 was looking like my bishop was just going to be trapped there. So this is actually a really well-known trick in the Phildor. Definitely something we'll take a look at afterwards. This one, good move, but not as scary. In my opinion, not as scary. Knight h6, why not? Oh, I can think of a few reasons why not. I can think of a few reasons. So it's tough to meet sacrifices like this, but for example, what's his next move? He might want to take this pawn. What I'm thinking is something like knight takes e7, right? And after queen takes e7, then I'd be interested in maybe a move like bishop g5. Maybe I can create some tricks with knight d5. What do I mean not scary? I mean that when you see a sacrifice like this, after you admit to yourself that you're not supposed to take it, and you say, well, if I just sit here, what is he threatening? Not much. At the most, he's threatening to just go back and walk away with one of your pawns. That's not the worst. That's not the worst. Now, we've talked about, hey, when you got that pin to the queen, it's immediate knight d5. Don't even have to think. Don't even have to think. Okay, and here we go. What should we be doing here? Guys, we've talked about doubled pawns in front of the king quite a lot. This is another test. How do you take advantage of it? We know that with either of these moves, it's going to be pawn takes. We know that it's going to be pawn takes. Knight takes, bishop h6. Definitely a fantastic idea. k4 is coming in with bishop takes f6. Potentially a better idea. Potentially a better idea. So who sees why? Knight takes, bishop takes. Hey, definitely full marks to you. But how about this? How about this? Returning checkmate. Well, he's got to sack his queen. We're playing knight takes f6. This is the idea. And remember our opponent's scary move, bishop takes f3, that we talked about a couple moves ago? And what about it now? It's been sitting there the whole time. Now I could even take it if I get a free moment. But this bishop takes f3 didn't actually do that much. Right? I was able to just ignore it and play bishop g5, go for the pin, and look, look at this guy. He's just sitting here for me. He's just sitting here for me to take. And now I'm basically closing my eyes and playing king here and rook there. There's just not going to be any way that my opponent survives this. Let's bring the king and let's bring the knight. And that should be GG. That should be GG. A great defensive move by my opponent. Unfortunately for him, while he has a rook to block, h4 is a good move here as well, but I have another rook to swing over. So trade, followed by the rook here, and this is going to be very, very tough for him to handle. Pawn there. Well, I'm gonna go to you guys. I'm gonna ask the audience. I've got a bishop lined up to the king. I'm assuming there's probably a few moves. Which ones tickle your fancy? I see some knight takes f6. I see some knight e7s. There we go. So there has only been one person with the correct answer. Sleazy McCheesy in chat points out that while this move and this move are checkmate in one, rook takes g5, you get to sacrifice your material, get to look like a boss. In case there's any ladies watching, look for better. Sleazy McCheesy, that's a guy who's looks like he's completed all the habit. I mean, this is just great. Any ladies watching, you just tell them, oh yeah, sack the rook for mate. Beautiful stuff. Yeah, and now you can follow up with your knight. Take your pick, guys. Take your pick. So there we go. We're getting slowly back into it. Time management was a little bit better that game, but we also didn't overreact to this. I said we were going to look at that, even though we won, just because I wanted to take a look at this. Okay, bishop here, c5, and c4. So I think, not sure, but I think the move f4 might keep me in the game, right? Not quite trapped, but something to watch out for is that in the Philidor, a decent move to have in early is the move a4. Not only does it stop b5, but it also deals with the fact that c5, c4, you'll always have another escape square for your bishop. So the move a4, the Philidor, hey, that's just something that you can utilize, but it's often a very useful move to play earlier than you think. So even here, a4. Even here, a4. I know it looks crazy, but it would not be that strange. Would not be that strange. Okay, just stop some of his pawn advances. Well, what happens is when the bishop starts to go to this square, these pawns start moving really, really quickly, and they hit your pieces on the way to gain time, and your pieces can get trapped way quicker than you think. All right. That's pretty much all we wanted to double check. Otherwise, our opponent did bring this move up, but you saw, according to the analysis, bishop takes f3 was actually a mistake. Labeled a mistake by the analysis engine there. I think the c4, if he had gone for that, would have been much more challenging for me. Okay, very strong player here. 1875. Let's put our e4, e5 to the test. Have we seen the King's Gambit before? Yes, we have. Hello, Eddie Barber. Here we go. And what have we been playing against it? We've pretty much always been playing d5, followed by bishop d6, and knight f6. So again, let's go for it. Okay, looking to castle here. c4 he plays. All right. Oh, we're in for it. Let's castle. We got a rook coming to the center of the board. Yeah, d5. Again, we're sort of quote-unquote gambiting the pawn back. Let's go rook e8. Rook on the open file. Never going to be a bad thing. Our Schmatz, thanks for the 5 subs. J-Trum, the $5. There is no ELO level that applies to the habits. It's whatever ELO you can get to with them. That's why I don't format them by ELO. It's just levels. Just levels. When you feel like you're not, you've reached the peak with a certain level, you move to the next one. I don't think it has to be rigid, but if you want, you can follow the rating progress that I made with each level of the habit series and try to match that. What if they push e5? Well, if they push e5, I don't think we're really too concerned, but just develop your pieces. Like the move e5 doesn't keep the board open. Not really something you have to be careful of. Okay, well, let's move this bishop. Let's get this knight out. Okay, and he goes c5. Interesting. It's going to be a concession for him as well. And instead of playing bishop e7 here, I think bishop f8 is the preferred move. Okay, you don't want to be blocking your rook in the center. When I say concession, I mean, hey, if you want to do this and win my pawn, I'm going to win your pawn in the center. Personally, I'm a lot happier with black here, getting this center pawn for, my double pawn over here on the side. Okay, so our knight wants to get out to c6. Depending on where he puts the bishop, knight e3 could be a serious move, which is why he plays bishop to g5, does not let that happen. Does not let that happen. Yeah, bishop f8 is a good one. So if Ben says always play bishop f8 and never play f6, we're going to cancel them out. So we're back to even. We were in Ben Feingold's good books with bishop f8, but now we're back to even. We go f6 and the guy goes back to c1. Hang on, I might have to start playing f6 more often. I might have to start playing that more often. What the heck is bishop back there? Well, I'm going to finish development first. Knight to c6. Okay, queen d7, rook over to d8. Finishing development here. Yes. Tynecus, 100%. I would love to play against this pawn. What is it called? A backwards pawn. A backwards pawn. I would love to play against it. Bring that rook over. Again, I'm looking to control the square in front of the pawn, which means I'm going to play a move bishop e6 here. I'm going to support this knight. It's all about trades. Very good to do trades. And controlling the square in front of it. So rook's going to come over. Maybe this knight needs to slide back to e7. Right? If I do this trade, I'm a little concerned after he takes that his pawn is going to be supported by this guy. So I'm not too keen on this trade, but pretty much if I could just take these knights, have them disappear from the board, that would be 100% worth it. Rook e1. I like what he's doing here. I do like what he's doing. He has some very nasty intentions. For those that don't notice, rook takes e6 is definitely an idea here. Rook takes e6, and then the knight would be hanging. Okay, since that's what he's after, the absolute best move would be to drop the bishop back to f7, where it still maintains the control of d5, right? But rook d8, if you don't notice what's going on there, rook d8 makes total sense. I think it's very reasonable you might play rook d8. I'm going to do it right now. We'll see what happens here. But absolute best move, bishop f7, for sure. But bringing a rook to the middle, I can't hate on you guys for doing that. This just trades everything. Well, if it does, that's great for me. Because remember, this pawn should be weak in an endgame. He goes a3. Don't think that is... that's not going to be a killer move or anything like that. I mentioned bishop f7 to you guys. Let's do it. If bishop f7 is the best move, why didn't I play it? Well, you got to remember what series you're watching, Thomas. Sounds like you might be new here. That's fine. Just do exclamation mark habits, habits info. There's a lot of things for you to take a look at. Hey, these are more trades. Those are for me. Those are for me. Trades are, and again, why have I been staying away from this trade? I don't want this pawn to come support his buddy on d4. That's what we don't want. How about the move h6 to make New York Mike happy? To make some of the habits bras happy? Okay, he goes here, and now guess what? I can take this because there's no pawn takes back. Important. Another trade. Not going to complain. Don't want my king to start journeying into the middle of the board here, so I am going to play queen takes. Okay, and he takes here. And how about this square? We've been talking about controlling it the entire game. Let's actually do some of that. Don't worry about attacking this pawn. I know it might be tempting, just like pile up all your guys attacking d4, but first control the square in front of it. That's how you're going to win your games. Not just attacking things. Attacking squares, more valuable. Right? If I put a knight on d5, this pawn is stuck there for the rest of the game. Yep, we talked about this. Let's put it there. Let's be about it. Knight on d5. Beautiful square. Okay. Let's support it with the pawn. It's all about that square right there. Don't worry about attacking this pawn. We can do that later. Bishop looks sad. I don't disagree with you. However, remember, all these pawns are waiting for this bishop in an endgame. So what are we going to do? We're going to keep offering trades. And I promise you, that dark squared bishop, you might be laughing at it now, but he's about to have a glow up. He's about to have a glow up. Polar Bear with 10 subs. Holy smokes. Let's centralize the queen a little bit. Now, these bishops, dark square bishops, what have I always mentioned with dark square bishops is that we generally want to put the pawns on the opposite color. So something like a6, c6, b7. That's exactly why I'm doing that. Okay, whether these knights are on the board or not, we still want to play in the exact same way. If these queens disappear, believe me, I'm going to be very, very happy. Would you like to trade queens, buddy? Oh, it would be a beautiful thing. It would be a beautiful thing. No, he doesn't want to. I don't blame him. That was a smart decision by him. Smart decision. So, he goes back. What do we do here? Well, let's make a move. Hopefully, let's give him a check. Hopefully, it gives me some time to think. But basically, all I'm going to be trying to do, the simplest plan, is go for a queen exchange. So, let's see what can be done. Maybe an e-file infiltration. What I'm looking for, even at the cost of some time, is I need to trade those queens. Super important. And am I going to be able to do it? Let's see if he's nice enough to me. Knight on d5. I want to leave it there. I don't really want to take this guy. Nice move by him. Really nice move. Playing well. Love to see it. Love to see it. Let's hope he throws in knight e5. Yeah, good move. This was a solid game by him, for sure. But definitely a game that I want to draw attention to because of the way we played against this pawn. You do this in your games, you're going to get wins. That's just how it's going to work. Let's have a look at it. This was a game which was very level 4, I would say. This is something we're focusing on a lot more, level 4 habits, which is going to be squares. Kind of a weird concept. Why would I attack a square? No piece there, no threats there. Why am I going to attack a square? I'm actually going to skip most of this beginning part. And pretty much here is where I want to bring the focus to. As soon as he played b4, and we got something like this. So we want to bring our knight to d5, play c6, play a6, be super solid. And why am I saying that this is such a good thing? Well, let's just imagine, how do I get a queen trade here? There we go. Let's imagine something like this happened. Like the eval bar, first of all, is going to immediately jump in black's favor because this pawn pretty much doesn't exist. So it's like I've got 3 on 2, and this pawn on d4 just isn't there. It just isn't there. I'm going to start pushing these pawns, you know, eventually make a pass pawn at some point. All these pawns are going to be sitting there for my bishop to attack, and once I get some pawns going, I will be able to attack them. This king, if we imagine me just walking in there, taking these pawns, that's also a real possibility as well. Also a real possibility as well. So this is why I was going for a queen trade, that if I could do that, it would basically be equivalent to winning the game. Bad pawn just can't move, sits there for the rest of the game. Our knight, dominant central square, blocking that extra pawn that white has for the 4 on 3, making it feel like it's just 3 on 3, plus a great central square, and white cannot block these pawns in the exact same way. So what did my opponent do? Fantastic job. He didn't go for any trades, right? He kept the queens on the board. It's exactly what he needs to do. If we had a little more time, probably could have played a bit better, but want to point out that he did exactly what you should do, which is knowing that I want to trade queens, he wants the exact opposite. Anytime your opponent has a weak pawn, you want to trade pieces, you want to blockade and control the square in front of that pawn, and you want to try to refrain from just attacking it. The nice thing about weak pawns is they'll always be there. They will always be there. You can attack it later. Right? Blockade it, and you'll be good. Why was taking f7 a blunder? Because the pawn was hanging on d4. Pawn was hanging. As I said previously, you know, bringing the king into the middle of the board is never going to be the most natural thing, but of course here it just happens to be good because of knight takes d4, winning a pawn. So it's a big improvement to queen takes, but I think queen takes is very, very natural. Again, if you're making blunders that bring the game back to level, or maybe still in your favor, hey, those are good blunders to have. We just don't want to be making blunders where we're dropping a whole rook or dropping a whole queen. Those are bad blunders to make. Okay, so remember, we don't want to lose free pieces, anything like that. But for making a move that just simply misses a continuation, those are better blunders to have. That's correct, Jimster. That's correct. By attacking this square, you're keeping that pawn where it is. You're keeping his pieces tied down defensively. You're stopping this bishop from ever having an open diagonal there. That's all from attacking a square rather than a piece or a pawn. But my opponent played super well. And he's nearing a 1900 himself, so that's not surprising. That's not surprising. Let's see what we're going to do next. Let's see what we're going to do next. What game are we going to get? Here we go. 1776. Daniel Dubovson. Good username. I like him already. Polar Bear, again, thanks for the 10 subs. Aeon Robin with the 13 months. And Enrique CF12 with the 4 months. Guys, we said we were going to play the Nimzo. Let's go for it. This is the opening that we're going to play against D4. E3. Let's castle. Let's castle. Bishop to D3. And what have I been doing? Guys, I think by this point, you should probably know the setup. But pawn here, bishop to that square, knight to D7. This is what we want to go for. And bishop takes knight is exactly how we want to follow up. Good reminder is as soon as he castles, you should often consider taking it right away because he might move the knight and suddenly your bishop's stuck out here. Can't get back in. So what I like to do is take that as soon as he castles. Won't always be the best, but it's a good rule of thumb. Make sure you never lose your bishop out there. It's happened to me before. Isn't the Nimzo a bit difficult to play? I don't think so. I'm presenting like a pretty simple setup that you go for every time. E5 is your main plan. Give up your bishop for the knight. And the reason I suggest the Nimzo is because level 4, we want to work a lot on weaknesses, pawn weaknesses, and differences between bishops and knights. So we have the knights here, not the bishops. What do we want to do? We want to close the game. Am I going to take? No. First of all, there's bishop h7 or bishop e4, both strong moves. I'm going to play e5. Not only was that my plan anyway, I just told you guys that. Not only does it threaten e4, winning a piece. Hey, that's not too bad either. But it also closes the position, and that's going to benefit the knights. Now, knight c5, for example, is a nice juicy square I can go to. And that pawn there is fully stopped in its tracks. It cannot go to c5. It's going to be a sitting duck waiting to be attacked in the future. So queen there, it stops e4, but it doesn't make any other threats, right? It's not threatening bishop h7 or anything like that. H6 would be a very decent move. Knight c5, very decent move. Why is knight c5 good? It opens up this bishop, puts that knight on the beautiful outpost we've been talking about. I'm liking the look of knight c5. And h6 is a fantastic follow-up. So these two moves in some order here. He plays e4. Let's play h6. Why? Stop that bishop g5. That's been something regular we've been doing. Knight c5 also brings back e4 threat, 100% correct, which is why he played e4. That's why he played e4. But yes, you were correct. All right, this position, rook e1, let's get developed. Hey, it also makes a threat, bishop takes knight. Not going to complain. But this is a positional game. This is a positional game. Learning a thing or two about positional chess. We got knights against bishops, so we're trying to keep things a little bit closed. If we open things up, it's going to be on my terms. Plus, I've got this beautiful outpost on c5. And after knight h4, hopefully you guys are on the same page as me. What should we be doing after knight h4? This is not a special tactic, I would say. This is something that we've seen before. G5, obviously. I respect the energy with G5, but we're thinking about the queen on D8, hitting the knight on H4. Hitting the knight on H4. So we want to take this knight, and we want to do one of these. Knight takes D5, knight takes E4. E4 is the more important pawn to take. D5 is probably the safer pawn to take. So if you wanted to make sure you just won a pawn, I would take on D5. But if knight takes E4 works, it's much better. It's much better. Okay, so I would calculate this and this. After a little bit of calculation, it seems to me like knight takes here is okay. But you guys all got the idea. That's good. We have a queen on d8 and a loose knight on h4, not protected by anything. Those are what you're on the lookout for at all times. I don't know why, but I have a feeling my opponent might blunder mate here. Bishop takes e4, queen takes h4. Be probably good if he just kept developing or something like that. What if he took with a rook? Well, remember, we have the knight there to take again. Plus, this knight's also hanging, so taking with a rook wouldn't have been too impressive by him. g3, he's got a lot of weak squares around his king. Let's keep our queen out there and active. Queen h5, using this bishop and queen together. Now I have maybe bishop here, bishop there. And man, if he doesn't play bishop back to g2, he does. If he didn't play that, hopefully you guys were seeing what I was seeing, which was knight takes bishop and get all over those light squares for checkmate. For checkmate. Okay, now this position, I love the move bishop f3. We want to trade his bishops off. Something that I mentioned is like anytime your opponent has two bishops, you have a bishop and knight. If you take your bishop and exchange it for his bishop of the same color, you'll almost always be doing the right thing. Something like this, make your life a little easier. And he's threatening to take this knight. Knight d7 might be a decent move, but hey, what about f5? Bring the rook over. If you want to take me, go ahead. I am up a pawn here. Is f4, f5 too aggressive, or f5, f4 too aggressive? I don't think so at all. Not only is f5 a good move just because, but it also happens to have a serious threat. And look, if the guy wants to go for a trade, I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to say no. And after rook takes e2, we've been talking about f4. What about f3? What about f3? In between move. It's a fork. Something that we are probably looking at ever since we played f5. And the nice thing is we can still take that bishop at the end because he put his king on a square where it was check. So rook on an open file. Let's use this rook. Hey, what have I said? Doubling on an open file. Can't complain about that. Can't complain about that. Just bring that rook down. There we go. Take this pawn. Now we have a pass pawn. What do we do? Let's push the dang thing. Let's go. Let's go. Don't think twice. Just push him, baby. Don't know what he's doing over here, but don't really care. Let's make way for this pawn to keep going. A2. Push it real good. Hopefully, the end of this game, converting the end of this game, is not going to be too hard for you. There's a number of ways to do it. You know, rook here, and then the other rook down works. Rook here to support the pawn, to put this rook down. It all works. I can pretty much ignore him. Don't know what he's up to over there. Okay, we just want to clean up these pawns. Get another pass pawn, and that'll be good enough. Hopefully a position like this isn't too complicated to convert. All you need to do is start cleaning up your opponent's pawns. And usually if you have that much extra material, I always recommend going for sacrifice. Should make your life a lot easier. And we're going to try to promote this pawn. And the queen and the rook. We got to use them together. Now, what's going to happen here? There's going to be this guy in the way of my ladder checkmate. So you can go here, you can go here, but what do I recommend after that? Push that pawn. Push that thing out of the way. And now continue. I can use this queen to finish it off. Let's continue. This was a good game. Nimzo, I know it's kind of boring stuff, but the knight against bishop stuff, the pawn structures, this is what we're working on in level 4. This just killed him the entire game, had beautiful control of this. And we were able to utilize a tactic in the mid game, but I mean, I'm already looking at Black's position as very, very solid. Closed position against these bishops. Look at that guy. He's not too happy as the bishop pair there. That's exactly what we need. All right, e4. Thank you, Reluctant. Randharma, 20 months. Quit drinking, but still watch the chessbrahs. And there you go. That's the biggest surprise of the day. Thanks, man. And congrats on that. For yourself. Dankbard2, thanks for the fresh prime explosion volcanic eruption splatter. Vertigo sound, 3-month resub. Combat chess with 100 bits. And guys, why am I playing Bishop Knight here? Because I'm not, if anything, I'm going to take. But what I actually want to do is keep the tension here. What have I been saying? Open positions, okay? Let's go bishop back to c2. Okay, he's going b5. Again, let's just keep developing. I'm just waiting for him to take me. Waiting for him to take me. Gonna put my rook in the middle of the board. I'm supporting this pawn with my pieces. Keeping the tension. Very important. Very important. Remember, if you're ever gonna break the tension, what do I always say? Take. Taking is better. Okay? Let's play an h3 for New York Mike. Taking is always better. If you push, hey, it might be a good move, but I'd rather get open positions for you guys right now. That's gonna pay dividends. Let's open the position. His king is still in the middle, right? So it's not exactly in his interest to have a rook bearing down on it. He decides to take here. And let's go a little aggressive. He's doing a lot of pawn moves here, a little suspicious stuff. Do you guys remember after this his b5, a5 stuff? Someone is doing all this random stuff over here. What are we supposed to do? Play in the center of the board. Sure. Play in the middle. Okay, he goes knight d7. Don't mind going knight f3. It opens up my bishop, and it supports the knight. And it supports that. Manny Fresco, thanks for the 3 months. Okay, continue development. These bishops look very menacing right now. Okay, our turn. We need to continue here. Something like queen d2 or queen e2. Both moves look very, very solid. Let's choose this one. Couldn't I Greek gift earlier? I don't think so. I don't think so. Not only did he have g5 covered by the bishop, but the knight also covered h7. Esmachakos, 45 months. Thank you, Esmachakos. Buddy. The b pawn is a weakness. I don't know if I'd say weakness, but one thing I think we've mentioned is that anytime you see the move g5, b5, and obviously the same for white, you immediately challenge it with a4, h5 to hit those pawns. That's often a good way to go. So I would be really considering something like a4 here. I'm just going to bring the rook to the middle of the board. Hey, you can't go wrong with a move like that. Kelox, thanks for the 500 bits. Glad you're enjoying it. Okay, he plays h6, and what are we going to do? As always, keep the pin pressure. Not going to rush and just play bishop takes f6, for example. Now, he decides to play knight e5. I have a choice here, an important choice. I can play pawn takes, knight takes, or queen takes. Queen takes I would reject pretty quickly because of bishop takes f3. Don't like those double pawns. Pawn takes is something I want to calculate immediately. Pawn takes e5, knight d7, pretty much forced. Not another decent square for that guy. Can't go to the middle of the board. Bishop takes bishop, queen takes, and what am I going to do after that? That's a pretty stable position. Knight takes, however, gets my knight back in the center, keeps things open. I am loving knight takes e5. But if you play pawn takes, I wouldn't hate you for it. It looks like a very solid move as well. But I like knight takes e5, keep my options open, get another piece in there. We'll see what he wants to do next. Iglumu, thank you for the gifted sub. What if I play a4 to challenge it and he goes b4? Then the c-pawn would be hanging. The c-pawn would be hanging. But otherwise, you're 100% right. b4 is something you have to watch out for. So you want to make sure you time a4 so he can't just go here. can't just go here. Okay, knight d7. He's offering a trade here. Don't blame him. He's looking to free up some of his pieces here. I think bishop g3 makes a lot of sense because, hey, we have more space. Don't necessarily want to help our opponent develop. But again, bishop g3 and bishop takes e7. Both very good moves. Both very, very good moves. So, is one better than the other? Not too sure. Bishop g3 looks a little bit more advanced than bishop takes e7, so let's keep it simple. Let's take that bishop, queen takes, and now what? Now what? We need to play in the middle of the board or where our pieces are pointing, which is towards that king. So let's activate some of these guys. I'm going to choose the move queen to g4. Hey, if you want to take me, be my guest. Activate my rook. Activate my rook. He attacks my queen. I'm not necessarily upset. Not necessarily upset. Attacking my queen, sure. But hang on, remember, I might bring some of the other pieces into the game here. Rook e3, the rook lift. And hey, what's Buddy doing over here? Okay, guys, in a situation like this, the number one thing you do is you first oil check. Yeah, is this guy going for a draw? Is this guy going for a draw here? So first, look under the roof there. See if he's going for it. And look at that. Queen g5. He wants a queen trade. Okay, so we see what he's really up to. We see what he's really up to. Now, if I take him, he takes back. That looks pretty solid for the guy. Pretty solid. If I back up, I'm going to get mated. So for all those who want to avoid a queen exchange here, I apologize. I apologize. I don't think there's going to be a way to do that. Now, after queen g5, if I take, he takes back. If he takes me, I take back. I actually feel like I want to be taking towards the center, so I'm kind of inclined to wait here, make my own move. Let's see what that might be. Rook e3. We talked about a4 from before. a3 looks good. Even h4 to make him take here. So I'm going to try rook e3. Doubling on an open file. When is that? When have I told you guys not to do that? Never. Let's see if he wants to take. He's just not having it. He's making me take him. All right. Double on open file. Double on an open file. Okay. Goes g6. What can I do here? Maybe go for trade. Bring my rook in, attack a pawn. Basically, I want to move this knight off the e-file so we can actually use the rooks rather than have them sit there. Okay. Let's go. F3. Support all these pawns like one big chain together. Don't mind if I do. Oh, guys, when you have 19 seconds, do you want to be trading absolutely everything? Yes. Does anyone know why? It's because your position is a lot easier to play, right? A lot easier to play once you trade pieces. There's not a lot of things left that can happen. It's easier to pre-move. I only have, kings and pawns left, right? So at this point, we're going to rush our king over to the side of the board where all the action is. And what if we do this? Is he gonna find the brilliant outplay here? I'm hoping we can just shuffle, guys. I'm hoping we can shuffle. A very cute finish, if I may say so myself. Just a game played to absolute perfection. Just two grandmasters going at it. Peak performance, top of their game. But the thing is, if you're in a position like this, you have 6 seconds to minute 22. What should you be doing here? Pre-moving this and this, like pretty much the whole game, right? Pretty much the whole game. Because he can go here, here. Push the pawn, push the pawn. You see how he doesn't have any entry points? So I would just be shuffling like that. This was a good game, though. Funny ending, of course. Let's just jump into a next one. Let's see if we can handle some Tai Chi. Thank you, Combat Chess, for the bits. Tempest, appreciate those subs. Okay, we said we were going to play the Ruy Lopez. And you know what? I feel like I mentioned this at the beginning of the series, or beginning of the level 4, and I've barely gotten a chance to actually play it. Barely gotten a chance to play it. So here we go. We finally got the Ruy Lopez. Bishop g4. Always going to start with that little h3 and c3. So one of the important things is when we've been playing the 2 knights out, what has been absolutely killing us, guys? Knight d4, right? And that pin on the knight has been terribly annoying. c3 and the way that we're going to play the Ruy Lopez immediately deals with that, right? Basically, there's, our idea is to play d4. There's no knight coming into d4, and at the risk of playing a little slow, I want to show you guys another really, really easy and important way to get rid of this pin. It might look annoying, g4, but I'm actually very comfortable with this because the knight not going to c3 anymore means the knight is going to d2. Where's it going next? It's going to f1. Where's it going next? It's going to g3, and the bishop is going to have to leave that pin. Or I'm going to get his bishop. I'm happy with either of those things. I'm happy with either of them. So knight d2, knight f1, and knight g3. That's another very, very nice way to deal with a pin in case it happens. d5 played. Let's take that thing. What have I said about opening the position? Let's go. Let's go, and let's continue our plan. Knight f1. Remember, knight d4 is covered by this pawn. That's why we put it there. That's why we're playing this Ruy Lopez line. Our knight doesn't go to c3 anymore. He plays f6. Let's continue. Knight g3, and we see what happens. He has to leave that diagonal. We have h3 played. Knight g3 is on a good square. It can jump in the center of the board. So this is exactly how you can deal with a pin at the higher level. The knights support each other like that, and then this little maneuver, knight f1, knight g3, bishop has to leave, or it's going to take me, but I'm happy with that as well. I'm happy with that as well. Casey Ingram, thank you for all these subs. My goodness. My goodness. Okay. Very slow maneuver, but keep that in mind. Hopefully that's one you guys can use. Let's try the move d4. It's a central move. Can't complain. Knight a5. Do I want to give him this bishop? Well, maybe I don't really want to, but hang on. What? Isn't the guy giving me a pawn in the center? I'm going to call that bluff. I'm going to call that bluff. Don't want to put my queen there, right? Right into the line of fire. Don't want to put the queen in the line of fire. Hey, Shinobi. Yeah, that's right. When Casey Ingram hits you with a gifted sub, he makes sure to let you know. We want you guys to re-sub. We hope you guys come back. Enjoy the sub. It's very kind of Casey Ingram, but we want you guys to come back. We're still maintaining 15,000 subs, but I say maintaining like, I don't know, like Art K is maintaining a buyable stock price at the moment. I feel like our sub count is pretty much as volatile as some of Kathy Wood's holdings at the moment. So you can just never be too confident. c6, defending the knight. Hey, I won a pawn here. I'm going to just make sure to exercise that. Let's take here. Bishop takes f6. And what are we going to do? I'd like to finish development. That would be nice. Bishop here. Both look like reasonable moves. I know this is kind of a modest move, bishop d2, but hey, connects the rooks. Doesn't look that bad. Okay, queen here. Now let's get that knight right in the center of the board. Why? Not only for trades. Hey, we're up material. Trades are good. You say the bishop pair makes you nervous? Hey, I got something for you. I got something for you, Thalfon. If the bishop pair makes you nervous, get rid of the bishop pair. And then you won't be nervous. Just don't be nervous, bro. Just don't be nervous, bro. Maybe we can get rid of both of the bishops. Oh, that would be special. That would be special. Elfir, thank you for the 4 months. You were too busy using your prime. You missed all the important moves. That's okay. That's again, making sure to get that prime in there. Oh, there's high value on that, let me tell you. Okay, so Thalfon said he's really nervous about the bishop pair. And within 3 moves, he doesn't have a single bishop on the board anymore. Hang on a sec. What just happened? Falcon Doghawk says with 1,000 bits that he is also nervous. Guys, for anyone feeling nervous, remember that the chessbrahs have developed a program for people that that are experiencing those nerves. And 1,000 bits here, gifted sub there, it all helps towards just self-improvement. So feel free as the collection plate comes around to quell those nerves a little bit, and just throw a tip in that plate. It's double on the open file. Hopefully you're feeling better there, Falcon. Capture towards the center. Not going to complain about that. And how about we attack this knight in the middle of the board? Try to dislodge that thing. We can't let him just sit pretty there. Trades. Trades are always good. I have an extra pawn, right? Count them up. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's got his threats. This isn't the most beautiful move under the sun, but we're going to throw it in there. Takes, takes. And now we think. And now we think. Maybe c5 to kill this diagonal. Oh, I'm going to play this move. I would love to see rook takes f2. I don't think we've truly played 2 rooks against the queen. Just 2 rooks against the queen in this series yet. And I would love to show you guys how powerful I think the rooks can be. Okay, so the first step is I want to hide my king in the safest square possible. Hey, it's not going to be perfect, but at least on h1, it is off this diagonal, and my rook is covering the back rank. So king to safety, if you can find any type of safety, is exactly what you want to do. Now, what's next? Let's move this rook here and move this rook back here. Even at the cost of losing these pawns, what I'm going to do is, what you do is you slowly bring your rooks back and then you double them. Let's bring the rook back here. You double them and try to attack the weak pawns. The rooks work really well together. As soon as your rooks double and attack a pawn, it's really, really easy to take it. Okay, so for example, maybe I defend my pawn. I'm just going to keep it simple and go here. If he takes my pawn, I'm going to take his pawn. Okay, what do I want to do now? Bring the rooks right back. So the rooks operate from the back, and I actually hope he attacks my pawn here. Okay, I'm going to go here just to prove a point. This is how the rooks work really well. Okay, so he took. So now that he's taken, I'm going to play rook here. I'm going to attack that pawn, and I want to double the rooks on the c file. Here we go, and you can basically pre-move this, and is there any way he can defend that pawn? No. What's the next step? After I win this pawn, then I'm going to try to target this pawn. Because if I bring 2 rooks and attack that pawn, he simply can't defend it with anything except the queen. Which means I'm always going to be able to play rook takes pawn. He's going to take my 2 rooks, and I'm going to have 1 extra pawn at the end. 2 pawns against 1. So the 2 rooks can always gang up on a pawn, and the queen can never defend it well enough. You can always do 2 rooks in exchange for a queen and a pawn. So let's see if I can arrange that. Remember, our king is still an issue. Our king is still an issue. We got to make sure we don't blunder some sort of perpetual check. The nice thing about the rooks is as long as you leave a rook on the back rank, if you want to do some pre-moves, you can always start pre-moving the rook. A lot of like nice, you know what I mean? You can do stuff like this. These moves will always work. Okay, but that's just to show you guys, the rooks pre-move very well together. Now let's actually try to get down there and double them. Okay. I like operating from the back here, so we're going to bring the rooks down, and then let's see if we can get these guys operating together. All right. That's the best we can do. Now convert. Hey, it's never easy, but what do? You always go for this, because the best you're going to end up with is an extra pawn. What should he have done there? He should have given me checks. He didn't do that. 2 pawns against 1. Are we going to be able to convert this? Does anyone know the evaluation of this position? Didn't he have a perpetual? 100% he did. Let's pre-move a check. I like pre-moving this move. If he moves his king, it's going to work. And if he goes here, let's see if he... Oh, I was going to say, let's see if he knows what to play after this. Definitely good. Depends what he does here. If he goes here, make sure when you're playing for the win, you play this move. Because if he goes here, you have g6, take, take. But a really, really common thing to do is to play g6 check. And after king h6, you blunder to draw. Very sad, very sad. King f6 is a stalemate, and you don't have any other moves. g7 loses your pawn, and all your other king moves lose the pawn. So just make sure to play king f6, that's all. Small thing at the end. I asked you guys what you thought of the evaluation of this. Let's get over here. This is a little more important here. So, what is the evaluation of this? Definitely should be drawing vibes. Now, it's still possible to win, as we saw. King g6, king there. But what black should be doing is not going king here, but rather going king here. Because this pawn covers this square, and the king covers these three. If I ever trade pawns, it's an immediate draw. Right? Immediate draw. And if I ever play h5, you just come back with the king and just shuffle on those two squares. So I can play king here, right? And now if you go king here, king f6, have to be king f6, right? There's no way you can do this. Why is the pawn trade a draw? Well, as black, that's what you're hoping for. You're hoping that pawns disappear. The h-pawn is always a draw. Engine says an easy mate in 23. We're getting there. We're getting there. If the pawns disappear, you guys have to know an h-pawn is a draw. Have to. If you don't know it, now you do. A single h-pawn, if the king's in front of it, is simply a draw. There's just nothing you can do. Nothing you can do. Okay? If this pawn, well, let's say these pawns disappear, they trade for one another somehow. Somehow. g5 takes, for example. It's also going to be a draw because the king's in front of the pawn. Basic endgames, basic opposition. Okay? So what white's trying to do is white's trying to win this pawn without trading any pawns at all. So he's playing king e4. King here is just game over. You lose this pawn. King f6. Are we going back here? No. Are we playing h5, g5? No. We're playing king d5. We're going for the opposition. Not opposition. We're getting the opposition, but what we're doing is outflanking. Okay? So right now we have the opposition, which means that when we play, when the kings are facing each other, it's our opponent's turn. It's our opponent's turn. Here, kings are facing each other, it's our opponent's turn. It means that whichever side he goes to, we can go around him. We can go around him. Okay, he goes there, we go king d5. Oh, king has to move again. King might go here, and you guys might be saying, hey, wait a minute. Black has the opposition now. King f5, king here. If you go back, king back. And you're correct. You're 100% correct. That's called a waiting move. That's called a waiting move. h5. Now you're going to force your opponent to move. So by playing h5, I'm actually gaining the opposition back. Opposition means if the kings are facing each other, one square apart, or 3 squares, or 5 squares apart, and it's your opponent's turn, you have the opposition. It means they have to make way for you. And whichever way he makes way for, I'll take. If he goes this way, I'll go the opposite and take the pawn. If he goes this way, which makes more sense, I'll go around him, and I can just walk right over and take that. You'll notice, you know, there's nothing that black can do to stop me from winning this pawn and playing g5, g6, h5, h6, h7. Whatever. This is two pawns winning. So that's really what opposition is. King and pawn endgames. Very tough. Tough to learn, but it's all about having this position when it's your opponent's turn. Having this position when it's your opponent's turn. Seems counterintuitive. Like, why do you want it to be your opponent's turn? Well, it's because this is sort of a deadlock, and you want him to have to move back to the side in order to let your king pass. Okay, so I tried to show you guys about the rooks. Again, It's not like it's a forced win or anything, but that's just how I would ever, play every time if I had 2 rooks against the queen. It ended up working out. He should have gone for a perpetual check, queen e5, queen e1, but he missed it. But the idea about the rooks is that if there's ever single pawns, like just one pawn, one pawn, one pawn scattered, 2 rooks, you just double up, attack that pawn, and it's extremely hard to defend. Well, impossible to defend with just a queen. 2 rooks always overpower a queen when you're simply attacking something. So if I attack this pawn, I'm overpowering the queen because I'll take it, and if the queen takes, just like the game, I end up winning a pawn. And then at least you'll have a chance to win the pawn endgame. All right, e4. I think you know what we're doing. That's e4, e5. Casey Ingram, thank you for the gifted subs. So many of those. We had Gus with 3 gifted subs. Casey Ingram, probably with 10 to 15 today. Appreciate it, Casey. JPJ Pesk with 100 bits. Zarth at 77. Thank you for the 3 months. Appreciate the 3 subs again. Gus. Falcon with 2,000 more bits. And hey, guys, we've seen this before, haven't we? Haven't we seen b4? What did I say to do? Who remembers? Who can help me out? The Evans Gambit. What are we playing after c3? Anyone? Anyone? Falcon says, does anyone know who Sexyarkar is? I need answers. That man is insane. What experience have you had with Sexyarkar there, Falcon? He's just a guy who likes to hang out in the channel, big supporter, and a huge Tesla bull. That's all you need to know about him. That's all I know about him. I see a lot of suggestions. I'm not really looking for necessarily the best move, anything like that, but we have talked about this in the Habit series, so I'm wondering who remembers what we talked about. And bishop e7 is the vibe. Bishop e7. So he goes d4. Okay. After d4, who remembers the continuation? Chesscom 8 or Chesscom 8 with the 5 subs from earlier. Very appreciated, man. Thank you for the support. Keeping our sub number looking good. 15,000 strong. Fugs. I like the suggestion there. I like the suggestion. Knight a5 from Fugs. A few other people got that one, but this is just remembering what we talked. We're going to go knight a5, and now we're going to go d6. So knight a5, we're giving up a whole pawn in the center just to get his light square bishop. If you take that pawn, or sorry, not that pawn, that bishop from an Evans Gambit player, they're just like, they have nothing. They have no idea what they're doing. They have no idea what they're doing. So I might do a little review at the end for this one, if you guys are wondering, because it's been a while maybe since we've seen the Evans Gambit, but everything I'm playing right now is something that we've talked about before. Okay, he's rerouting his knight. Let's save this knight again. Let's get this guy back in the action. Let's get this guy back in the action. Castles. And look at this. I'm basically just playing a chess game where if the guy had a pawn on b2, I would say it's equal, but the guy just doesn't have a pawn on b2. Is that what the Evans Gambit is all about? You just don't want to have a pawn there? I guess. I beats me. Beats me. Bishop e3. We can play moves like h6. A great move that we're probably going to utilize is bishop f8. We know how nice that move can be, but it is nice to just have the rook look at the center, and something like maybe bishop d7 next. Just looking to get developed. Hey, we've seen this stuff before. We've seen this stuff before. Right now, we notice our bishop on f8 is actually covering h6. So I don't think we need to be too concerned. But definitely keep that in mind. Definitely keep that in mind. We know what he might be up to there. We know what he might be up to. I sort of want to finish my development here. I don't mind the move b6 because it's on an open file. So just maybe preempting the move rook b1. King h7 wouldn't be crazy. We've talked about that when we see this being threatened. The only reason I didn't do that is because we had our bishop here already. Queen e7, rook d8 look like very logical moves next. He's going king h2. Very similar, right? Right? Here and here, very similar moves. Sometimes it's nice to defend this pawn because then maybe you can think about g6. Then maybe you can think about g6. That's what's nice. So let's bring this rook over. And again, if there was a pawn on b2, I would still think it's a pretty normal game. But it's missing, so it means that I can do all those things that I tell you guys to do when you're up material. Trade pieces, etc., etc. Isn't d5 annoying here? Well, d5 closes the position up. So I actually think d5 is not a move he wants to play at all. King h7, that move that we like. Guarding that pawn so we can play g6. Queen d3. Guys, I think it's time for g6. I'm liking the look of it. Knight g1. It's a slow-moving game at the moment. Bishop g7. Won't complain about finally accessing a diagonal. Poor guy's been asleep on f8. f4 played. Okay. Here we go. The guy is looking to open things up, and I don't blame him. I don't blame him. Let's take. We'll give him his open position. Okay, we're going to play queen back. Just, I would say generally it's a principle that I like to follow. Get the queen off, you know, a line where the rook is. For example, what's another thing to do? Hey, it might not be the best, but we have an open file. Don't have a lot of space, but doubling rooks on an open file. Hopefully that isn't going to be a blunder. Knight there, and he's walking into a fork. But look what he's planning. Queen and bishop lined up there. He's got some nasty stuff for me. Well, just put those hands together and hope it goes well here. Hope it goes well here. Because he's got some stuff for me on g6. I'm just going to continue doubling in the open file. Let's hope he doesn't hit me with the jugular. Okay, he doesn't. He doesn't. He's merciful at the moment. He's merciful. Let's move that king out of the way. Maybe crazy enough. Do I have g5 winning a piece? I don't know, guys. Oh, I think a lot of my opponents today, Metal Chess, have been playing really well. I've been crediting pretty much every opponent I've played. I thought has played extremely well. He goes bishop back. He's too clean with it. He's too clean with it, guys. Right? How am I supposed to get anything going here? Why do I play b5? I'm looking to play b4. Why? Because it's something to do. It's something to do. I think he's playing a great game right now. Star Princess, thanks for the 400 bits, by the way. Appreciate that. Okay, he goes for this. Respectable tactic. I still think it's probably not the best for him, but totally understand. It is a tactic to win a pawn. I think it's not right because now my bishop's going to be all over these dark squares. And hey, remember that weird plan I did over here? Let's finish that up. Let's finish up that plan. Nice. Let's just make a pawn move while we consider what the next move might be. Okay. Maybe a pin. Super well played by my opponent. I don't have any threats that I can make against his center pawns. c5, trying to attack that center might be my next idea. This bishop, I think, is going to have to move back, but while it hasn't been a crushing game for example, here, I might just pre-move this, you know? And if you're not sure what to do, I might even pre-move this. Just feels to me like he's a slow player, and I literally feel like I might be able to pre-move king h8, king g8, like literally back and forth. No, he's pre-moving the same thing back and forth. You see what I mean? Where did his speed come from? Where does the speed come from? Holy smokes, this guy just turned on the jets. Holy cow. He seemed like a soft player. Hey, hang on a second. He was slow. I was like, all right, we got the easy. Nope. That's called nitrous oxide, and just like every Need for Speed racer knows, you got to save it to the end. As always with a loss, you can jump into analysis, mostly to talk about this opening. The Evans, what have I been saying about it? Bishop back, and after d4, knight a5. So, why do I say knight a5? Because a lot of people are saying, hey, dude, didn't you just blunder the pawn here? And obviously the answer is hard yes. That is a very hangy pawn. After knight takes e5, what are we going to do? Like I said, as long as you take this bishop away from an Evans Gambit player, play d5, takes, and takes, they're like a headless chicken. They don't know how to play positions like this. I mean, of course, it's a fine position. As you can see, the eval's around even, but we're just going to play knight f6. We're going to castle. We got two bishops. We got an open position. I think it's really, really easy to play, and definitely what I recommend to sort of diffuse the Evans Gambit. So I go knight a5. And in the game they play bishop d3. I played d6. They might be saying, hey, what about queen a4 check? Right? Isn't this winning a knight? Not quite, because if you play knight c6, hey, I understand where you're coming from, d5. But c6 means that the knight is defended there. We have moves like b5 to follow up. And remember, if something like this happens, let's say takes, we're hitting that bishop all of a sudden with the queen on d8. And to put it in perspective here, takes, knight takes, we are not worried about giving this pawn back. Not at all. I'm just interested, developing knight out, castle, right? And I'm giving the pawn back in exchange for easy development. So I'm not playing this line with any intention of, hey, I want to keep this pawn forever. Otherwise, I wouldn't play knight a5 and just give it back right away. The idea is we either get his bishop or we just get a nice open position with easy development. And the whole point of the Evans is usually that white gets a huge center. He gets to kick you around with some tempi. None of that happens here. So I like it because it's kind of the opposite of what an Evans Gambit player wants, and usually that's an advantage in itself, getting your opponent a little bit uncomfortable, not in the position that they want to be in. Okay, and the rest of this game, I think my opponent played just very well. All right, he cycled the knight around. I actually just told you guys about this idea, right? And I don't think any move was, absolutely terrible by either side. There were definitely some inaccuracies for sure, but I think he just played a super solid game, went for the attack, and he just had good speed at the end. But, if you're playing a little bit quicker, I think this can go a lot better for you. Point is, black's just up a pawn in a relatively equal position. Like, if there was a pawn on b2, I think this would also be a normal position. But there's a pawn missing. Can't complain about that as black. And e4. Oh, that's a quick c5. Okay. Knight f3. Let's go c3. We do want to play d4. And again, we've actually seen this exact thing before, right? So let's try knight d2, see if we can keep the tension. We have been dealing with an isolated pawn in a lot of these games. And the reason that I take it is because I want to have an open game. I want to have an open position. Defend that pawn again. This is a pin, so that was the threat. And again, if e5 is an option and if taking is an option, what do I always recommend for you guys? I always recommend taking. Let's get castled. Okay, and h3. Where's New York Mike? That's a good habit for you. a3 is going to be good. Rook e1, taking the open file. And at least by taking, I have a little bit more leeway. Oh, just takes right away. Interesting. Bishop takes back. Can't complain. Can't complain. Knight e4. How about the bishop pair here? Do I save it? Even if the knight takes here, I don't think I'll be too upset with that. Not at all, but let's improve this bishop a little bit. Rook here and rook here seem like the obvious rook moves. Two open files. Probably not going to overthink that. Is an isolated center pawn bad? No, I think it's a bad habit to always refer to like isolated pawn as bad. Don't think that's the case. Cheers. Awesome. It can be bad, but it depends on your gameplay. Okay, guys, we've seen this knight move before. Hopefully you guys know about this bishop b1 thing, a3, and then put the bishop back. That's exactly how you handle that. Why do I recommend taking? There's nothing wrong with e5, but why I recommend taking, I want you guys to get an open position. There's going to be more tactics in open positions. Tactics are the number one thing you need to work on. I just think you'll learn more by playing open positions when you're starting out. Part of the Habits series. So I think that's the best way to improve. Guys, queen c8. Queen c8. What do we do? What do we do? There's a few ways that we deal with this move. There's either king h2, which we've talked about, defends this. Or there's, hey, let it happen, and then knight h2, right? There's a few ways that we could do this. Both of them look reasonable. Both of them look reasonable, right? So king h2 and rook c1. I think it's very possible after king h2, our opponent plays this. I'm kind of curious what happens. I'm going to start with this because I think that was our first instinct, and it's not a bad one. Guarding this pawn. And if queen check, I am going to go back, and let's say black plays queen c8 again, then I'll play rook c1. So it'd be kind of special if I was able to submit everyone's answer. Let's see. Let's see. But king h2 guarding, bishop takes h3. Okay, knight e7. I don't think the next move is going to surprise anybody here. Rook c1. And now knight into the middle of the board. Was g4 a bad move? g4 was a terrible move. Don't be playing that. Don't be playing that. Knight f5. Okay. So, knight takes d7. Totally playable here. I think I'm just going to go right for it. Grab it. This bishop I can't really move, so it's not like I can save the two bishops here. Let's go queen f3. Attacking a pair of knights here. And if he takes, my opponent takes, I think pawn takes or rook takes, totally reasonable. I'm going to go and choose the rook in this case. Doubling rooks on the open file. I'm also threatening at the moment to play bishop takes e4, winning the pawn. Okay, my main question here would be, why do I not win a pawn? And if you don't see the answer right away, ask your opponent to answer it for you. Okay, I think the answer was I definitely do win a pawn. Okay, centralize and double, maybe even triple up on the open file. h6. Hey, there's a habits move or two. There's a habits move. Let's triple up, triple the power. H6, great stuff by my opponent. All right, and what are we supposed to do when we're up material? How about that move? Trade, 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 trade. Now, we're in an endgame here. This pawn is under attack. Don't want to just, lose that for nothing. I think there's two ways to play here. Rook e2, rook d2, cover every pawn. Dab sneeze is the other option. But f3 is what I would say is the other one. So f3, king g3, basically guard the f pawn and then focus on trying to take your opponent's pawn. So I'm going to choose f3. I think king g3 is also very reasonable, but let's do this. Okay, now we are going to trade this pawn for some of his pawns. We want to say, look, you take my center pawn. So I had two options. Either defend that center pawn and try to push it, or try to take our opponent's pawns. Isn't b7 better? I don't think it really matters which pawn you take there. I think you're going to win 2 pawns no matter what. Goes here. So now that we have a position like this, definitely want to get some king activation. Bringing our king here would be a good start. Our opponent's just doing nothing. And if the rook ever moves, we win this. So that's why I'm just running over here. It's kind of a weird position, but I think I just attack this rook and he loses that pawn. Is that a fork or something? Did I just get forked? I think I should be very happy about this. Okay. I think the race between my pawn and black's pawn is not as competitive as black would like it to be. Not as competitive. Yeah, let's take that. And there might be lots of ways to win this, but the easiest one that I always say is use your queen, sacrifice for this pawn. Just keep it simple. Oh, no. Keep it simple. Not even a sacrifice. All right. Oh, thought we'd see this. And important. Instead of this move, what move would I recommend? This. Get that pawn out of the way. Whenever you're doing any sort of ladder checkmate, never do it when there's pawns away. It'll just always mess you up. For example, it's so easy to see this happening. Queen check, checkmate, you think, king there, and then suddenly you get messed up, right? Then you start moving this pawn, and you pre-move this, and it's stalemate, right? It's just so easy to see things like this happening that you move that pawn out of the way first, then you're not going to be at risk of any of these weird type of stalemates. And 1850, let's go. Caster, thanks for the fresh prime splatter. On top of that, knight c6. Gator drops. What shirt did you get? That's awesome, man. This is a variation, not a mouse slip. I know it kind of looks like a mouse slip, but I assure you, this is a move. Tricky variation. Pawn takes. It's sort of a little bit easier to understand what he's going for. Knight takes. He wants to take on e5. So it might look like bishop takes. Just easily the smartest move in the position. And I wouldn't blame you for thinking so, but there is quite a bit of theory that is that is available in this position. So white goes bishop to g5. And I mean, at this point, something like d6, just to present a variation. f4, knight e6, takes, takes, pawn takes, takes, queen takes, and this knight drops at the end. And it's kind of an even trade. So we'll have to take a look at this after, but for now, I'm going to play this move, knight e6, and then probably something like d6. And we'll discuss those tricky, long, calculated lines later. Bishop takes, queen takes. So normally what I see from white is f4 instead of the bishop out. Pretty sure to start with f4. That's Stokes. Thanks for the 5 subs. Knight c3, though, wants to jump into that d5 square, looking juicy. Looking juicy. There is c6 to stop it, but then queen d6 I think is kind of annoying. So I'm just going to stay solid here with d6. Knight d5, go ahead. I do have the knight here watching over c7. Let's go here. f4 played. Okay. If I can go here and get an exchange followed by castling, I think I'm going to be pretty happy with that. It's castle. This pawn is defended, and what's my next move going to be? Like almost 100% bishop to e6. I want to challenge that bishop, go for a trade. Why? I'm up a pawn. Trades all the time. Why isn't Eric streaming? Well, I'm streaming, so that's why. All right, bishop back. Let's develop the queen. Bring the rook to the middle. A decent reason, you know. I thought it made a little sense at the time. It did cross my mind, though. When I turned on the stream for Habits, I was like, man, wait a minute. Why isn't Eric streaming? Queen h5. Look at this tricky guy. Look at this tricky guy. h6. I don't want anything to do with that. Okay, let's finish activating. I would play rook f6 here. Rook f6 looks like a fun move. Something like that. I'm going to offer a queen trade to my opponent, knowing that he can't really take it. I mean, of course he can take it, but I don't think he should. Don't think he should. Queen f3. After Eric's stream this morning, how many pieces of furniture has he broken in the house? Well, you guys have probably seen Eric is streaming from a different location. In order to deal with Eric's rage in 2021, we actually just bought an entire house for him to break. Things were kind of valuable in this house, so we just bought a whole other house just for him to rage in. So that's why he's been streaming and done another location lately. Let's double rooks on the open file. Exactly, Big Nays. Some bachelors have a smash pad, and some bachelors have a smash pad. centralize the queen. Okay, c3. So protecting against this queen takes b2 threat, totally understandable. I'm actually going to make a move that Ben Feingold's going to love. f6. Just getting out of this permanently. Saying, look, you got 3 pieces lined up on a pawn that's defended by another pawn. You know, good job, dude. Good job, dude. Isn't the a2 pawn free? Oh, jeez. I can't even talk to people like that. Bishop takes a2. You're disgusting. Ugh. Ugh. Bishop takes a2. My goodness. All right. We got pieces lined up here. And I think pretty soon we can start thinking about rerouting that bishop and putting every single piece, literally every piece, attacking that. You said bishop a2 and you're proud of it? We have to be comfortable in our own skin, embrace our imperfections. So I'm happy to hear that you're proud of it. Everything attacking there, and he does. He throws in this move. Quite frankly, guys, I'm a little frightened. A little frightened of this. I don't like what he's doing to me. I don't like the way he's making me feel. I don't like what's going on here. Ooh, I expected a different move, actually. I expected a different move. Rook takes g5, though. A completely understandable threat. Bishop h5 definitely has its merits here, but it's not foolproof. Let's see what he wants to do here. You know, this is a tactic. Nice little skewer there. Or pin, rather. But, like I said, don't think this is anything close to foolproof. We'll see what he does. Rook takes g5. Not quite playable, as that comes with a check. Pretty devastating. Queen h3. Let's take. He takes back. And, I mean, in this position, he's threatening bishop there. I'm going to play pawn here to try to play d5. If he gets this check, and I go over here, it's checkmate. I just can't deal with that. Takes. And now, how am I going to pre-move? Well, oh, jeez. Okay. Dark squares. Guys, he's got a bishop. Everything on dark squares. You see how safe this is? See how safe this is? Everything on a dark square. And at this point, now you need to get in with the rook and start taking pawns. That's the only way. We gotta hope that there's pawns for me to take. Dark square, can't attack that square. And let's see what can happen. Oh, he took that pawn from me. He took that pawn from me. All right. And once we get this, let's see if we can execute some of the winning techniques that I've talked about. Oh, unfortunately, you ran out of time. I was really hoping I could show you guys the queen checkmate that I showed you guys before, but I was hoping I could show you in action. You know, as long as you pre-move queen and king close to one another, you just want to get to one of these magic squares with the queen, and you should be able to pre-move the victory. 5 plus 5 might be right. Well, it depends on you. Obviously, I'm using 5 minutes for this series. Doesn't mean you have to use 5 minutes. You can use 3 minutes. You can use 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Literally, you know, like these apply to any time control. So I'm just picking a format where it's long enough I can get some explanations in, but not too long where we're just all resident sleeper in here. The way that I have always gone about chess improvement is quantity over quality. So more games, more sample size, more practice versus, you know, sitting here and playing a 2-hour game, which might be a very high quality, the best game you've ever played, lots of time to think. But you can only play like one of them versus like, you know, 15 to 20 blitz games. Let's go. Knight F3. We've been playing this. That's Stokes. Thanks for the 5 subs earlier. Stokes, again, has been big time supporting with the subs, especially on these habits shows. Let's go Knight C3. So again, we're ready to take that back. Supporting with the pieces. Going to get castled. And this is what we like. This is what we like. Okay, we're gonna, you know, bring the rook to the middle, bishop out, rook to the open file. Castles, let's go rook d1. Queen c7. Why do I not like this move? Because rook c1, right? Eventually rook c1 is gonna happen, and it's gonna bother this queen on the open file. So I wouldn't even have chosen this this square if I was him. Cheers, Theo. F5. And boy, are we happy to see that as well. Why do you think we'll be happy to see a move like F5, guys? Why do you think? Does anyone know what that pawn is called? Does anyone know what that pawn is called? Yes, yes. A backwards pawn. Not a pretty one. Not a pretty one. Not a pretty one either. Okay, so what are we going to do? Let's make this game about controlling the square in front of it. So that square right there. I'm going to move my knight back. You might be like, dude, you just got your knight there. It's an aggressive square. Nope. We're going here. I'm going to switch the rook over. Fully controlling that square right there. Okay, H3. New York Mike's in the chat. Got to make sure to take care of him. H3, there we go. Okay, and we're always ready to jump in with the knight. Let's bring the rook to the middle, though. Finish development. Let's not forget. And now we can jump in there. That looks good enough. That certainly looks good enough. Okay, our queen's attacked. Got to choose somewhere to go. Queen F3, Queen D2 look like I would say the main candidate moves. I'm going to choose F3. Oro, 5 subs, let's go. Orodrin 187. He goes bishop to C8. Let's continue here. Bishop to C4 on the most important diagonal in the position. Bishop B3. What are we going to do next, guys? We've got H3. We've got all this. He's just played G6. Looks pretty non-threatening. Anyone have any suggestions for me? How do we continue to prosecute the advantage? Oro, thanks again for the 5 subs. Same with that Stokes earlier. Keeping that sub count looking pretty, guys. Keeping us afloat here. Boy, do we appreciate it. Oh, I'm seeing a lot of G4s. Guys, are you really falling for that bait? You really falling for that bait? I click the G pawn and then ask you guys what we're supposed to do, and you see these dots here, and everyone's like G3, G4. Oh, God, you guys are too easy. You guys are too easy. How about we double the rooks? Not only controlling that important square, but also covering E6. Right? That's where the pressure should go. That's where the pressure should go. Okay, let's transition into phase 2. Phase 2. Knight back. We're going to unload, you know, knight c5 or knight f4, depending where he goes. And all the pressure is going to be on e6 at once. We've done a good job securing the square in front of it, pretty much to, you know, pretty much maximize that. I'm just going to play the move a3. Look, if you want to play a4, I'll happily step back. No worries. He plays b4. Also totally understandable. Let's take it. Oh, I am hungry for that e6 pawn. You are not wrong. You are not wrong. All right. Let's continue. Here or here. I like knight f4. It just looks a little bit safer. That pawn on e6. It is finally going to fall. There's no way you can hold it. Look at this guy go. Knight d5. The audacity to think that he can hold that pawn. My goodness. My goodness. Guys, what are we going to do? We're going to open the file for our rooks. Our time attacking that pawn has come to a close. It's time to penetrate. It is time to penetrate. That e5 square, we're still using it. We're still using it. Remember, if there's a knight against bishop position, boy, are we happy with that. Rook e7, fork. There's rook f7. There's knight e6 immediately. That looks a little better. It's time to penetrate. This is probably the only part of the game that I would trust almost everyone in the chat with. Oh, that's Hector. I don't think that's going to work out for you, buddy. That is a fork, and that is a queen for me, and that is our 1800 back. There we go. E4 played. What do we play against that? E5. Remember, we're playing a 1674, so we're actually playing down right now. We got to win this game or we're going to be losing a lot of rating. Bishop to c4. All right, guys. This is something that we have seen before. And let's see how this works. I think we have played this once before. Let's take that. Oh no, don't tell me. Don't tell me we're taking and playing knight d4. Oh no. No. We can't be doing that. He's not doing that, right? Okay, well, hang on. He's offering me a queen trade. What's going on with Buddy Pal guy? Wait a minute. Hang on just a second. Hang on just a second. Why is he so happy to trade with me? Am I missing something here? All right, let's take this way. Okay, let's castle. Nice and easy. You know what? I don't mind getting my bishop out, attacking that knight, threatening to double his pawns. That's okay by me. It's okay by me. How about some rooks in the middle of the gosh darn board? Okay, remember, keeping that pressure, not cashing in right away. Bishop takes knight. Rook to e1. Hey, don't mind if I do. Another rook to the middle. Bishop e2. Guys, it's been a big success here. Mike, this one's for you. H6. Knight there. Well, he's going to break the pin, but, I mean, geez, I've got this extra pawn, right? I've got this extra pawn. How am I supposed to... how am I supposed to complain here? Bishop c5. Let's protect that. You know, I've got to protect it 3 times. I think I'm safe. I think I'm safe. Bishop d2. We've talked about doubling rooks on an open file. Why not? Why not? Remember, we don't want to give up bishop for knight for no reason. Hey, trades I'll take. Trades I will take. Let's just take them right away. Make a point of that. Offer another one. Eric's back. What was the final score for Big Chief against Mr. Carlson? The exciting part about Eric being back is that the most typed message in the chat might be a little different than, hey, Amon, did you know Eric's playing Magnus right now? Oh, jeez, I had no idea. I had no idea. Please, tell me more. Hey, Amon. Did you know that Eric's playing Magnus Carlsen right now? Wow, I had no idea. Please, tell me more. Bishop back. Let's put that king in the middle. Let's put the king in the middle. He wants to bring the knight in. He wants to bring the knight in. I respect his moves here. I think g6 is playable. Knight d6 is going to be the better one. Stopping his knight with my piece instead of my pawn. Putting my piece in the middle. And love what he's doing there. He's going to get that pawn back. Aha. Well, let's see here, guys. Let's see. Can I bring my king in? King into the center. Okay, you know. I'll take it. What am I doing now? Not too sure. Let's push some pawns. Just keep pushing them. Trust me, I don't know why these pawns are going here any more than you do. I don't know something you don't. A4. Okay. How do I push more pawns? That's all I want to do. I'm just a pawn pusher. Just a pawn pusher. Okay, and how's this king and pawn endgame, guys? How is this king and pawn endgame? Interesting. I have a feeling we might be winning this. Draw. Depends what he plays. Depends what he plays. I'm going to play c5. I would wager that it's possible I could win. Possible I could win. Really depends on him. My buddy Chessman Cito. Really depends on buddy Chessman. And he's taken that pawn, and I have a feeling that this wager might pay off here, guys. I don't know. I don't know. But it looks like Chessman Cito is giving me the win, Cito. We're going to take this, and we're just going to march over here. Definitely a friendly buddy guy over there. Why did I say it depends on him? Polar Bear loves that one. Let's go. 10 subs. Let me just break that down. Not by force, so I want you to remember that. But, like I said, depends on him. I played c5. I agree with your assessment, guys. It should be a draw. After I played this, he was quick to take. What did he need to do? Just move the king. Just move the king. What happens after that? King f5. Hello, hello. Let me get in there. So, I mean, looks like it should be a draw. Looks pretty simple. How come black's winning? Anyone explain that one? Can anyone explain that one? I mean, it looks completely symmetrical. Guys all said draw. I agree. That makes a lot of sense. Reasonable assessment. But if the king moves away, all of a sudden I'm getting into e4, and that's going to be completely winning. So what did he do? He took. Understandable. I play king here. Now if he moves away, I'm going to take this pawn. He goes back. I'm going to go here, and I have some options, but taking this pawn is one of them. Depending where he puts the king, I can also play something like, for example, here. I would play king here. Has to play this. g3. And even though his king gets back here, it is going to be outflanked, and I am going to be able to take that pawn and win the game. If he played king here, then if I played king here and he did this, we would get something similar. Right? So all I want to do is make sure to trade those pawns. and then bring my king over here. And no matter what, I will be able to take this pawn. If it was his turn, if it was my turn here, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter whose turn it is. I can play king f4, king f3, wait for this king to move to one of those squares, and then play king e4, get king d4, and get king c4. You'll always be able to take that pawn. Always be able to take that pawn. I don't really know how to generalize it, but anytime that your king is on the exact same rank rather, as one of your opponent's pawns that you're trying to take, as long as it's obviously not defended by a pawn. But if it's by itself or the pawns are ahead of it, if his king is there, it literally doesn't matter where his king is. You can always take it by force, always. So if your king is ever on the same line as an opponent's pawn, no matter what, if you have something like this, you'll always be able to take it. It just really doesn't matter. It could be black's turn, white's turn. You'll always be able to wiggle your way in and take this by some sort of zigzag pattern. Anyhow, yeah, in the game, he played f3, which makes total sense. If I take it, hang on, I just lose the game. But g3, and look at this. His pawns stop his king from moving, and my pawn stops his king from moving there. So all 3 squares that he would love to go to, none of them are available. Hey guys, just a reminder that Building Habits is going to be a regular series on our YouTube channel, so make sure to get subscribed if you are not already. Drop a comment down below for the algorithm, and let me know what you thought about the video. See you next time.